What is up, everybody? I am Hoops and Hip Hop, and welcome to another episode of the Pokeblock Podcast. Last week, we talked about the rise of the new game Temtem and how it's a very Pokemon-like game, and we compared it to Pokemon and whether or not it was a legitimate contender. And today, we're actually going to talk about some actual legitimate developments within the Pokemon franchise, because something came around, literally late last night. I'm unfortunately recording this a bit later than I would like to. But this is exactly why I kind of wait until the last second to record things, because so often during this podcast, I've talked about how sometimes it can be a little tricky to come up with a topic, considering I talk about so many different things on my own channel about Pokemon all week long, and I kind of have to obviously want to make this unique and original in terms of its own content, so I often wait throughout the week until the last second, as I said, to see if anything happens within the Pokemon franchise, see if any developments come about, any news, different things like that. And sure enough, last night, Thursday, the day before this goes up, at about 10 p.m., so literally the last second, we get news that a brand new mythical Pokemon is going to be revealed on Pokemon Day, which is February 27th, the day basically the birth of the franchise. That's the day the Red and Green games originally came out back in 1996, and that it's also going to appear in the new Pokemon movie. Nothing was said other than that, but the fact that we're getting a new Pokemon is that's pretty big stuff. That's a pretty big deal, and so that's kind of what we're going to be revolving our discussion around today, and it's just really funny that came at the last second. So that's honestly why I have to hold out. I have no choice at this point, because this has happened several times now. You would be surprised at the amount of times where I'm ready to do a podcast, but we get information at the last second, and so either I basically hold out long enough to be able to talk about it, or my subject matter completely changes. It's kind of crazy how often that has actually happened. But with that being said, I do need to thank our sponsors for today's episode. These sponsors really help us out a lot and support the show, so they are very much appreciated. First shout out goes to the Tax Defense Group, because today's episode is brought to you by the Tax Defense Group. Tax season is here, and that means it's time to file your taxes. There's good news though, because if you are a W-2 employee, you can save half off of your filing. All you have to do is call the Tax Defense Group before April 15th, that's tax day, and mention that you heard this ad on UCast Studios. Millions of Americans will get money back after they file, and you can be one of them by calling the Tax Defense Group today at 800-850-7973. That number again is 800-850-7973, and you can also visit them online at thetaxdefensegroup.com. This episode is also brought to you today by Writer Junkie. Are you looking forward to making more money in 2020? Because one of the best ways to do that is by having a new resume that can help you get that dream job. Writer Junkie offers affordable, well-written resumes for the low cost of just $145. They'll even throw in a cover letter for no additional charge. All you have to do is mention that you saw this ad on UCast Studios, and they will get right to work. So go ahead and call Writer Junkie today at 805-587-7966. Once again, 805-587-7966, and you can visit them online as well at writerjunkie.com. Okay, so with all of that out of the way, like I said, in today's episode, we are going to be talking about this concept of this new Pokemon that is coming on Pokemon Day. Like I said, this was announced late last night, and along with it was the announcement that I guess Japan, or I guess the Pokemon company in Japan, has got Japan to officially recognize Pokemon Day as an actual holiday. Because for the last few years, February 27th, given it's the day when the first games came out, it's been informally called Pokemon Day, and something has always happened on that day. In 2016, we got the announcement of Sun and Moon. Obviously, last year, we got the announcement of Sword and Shield. And in the in-between years, they've always done something smaller. And so basically, because it's been informally celebrated, now it's going to be like an actual official thing in Japan, which is really, really cool. That's absolutely fantastic. I would love for that to happen here, but in America, or Europe for that matter, but I don't think it's going to happen. But nevertheless, we can still celebrate it, and obviously the Pokemon Company is keen on celebrating it because we're getting a brand new mythical Pokemon. And this is obviously very exciting because A, it's a new Pokemon, B, it's a mythical Pokemon, so you obviously know it's important, and C, it's going to appear in the new Pokemon movie. The new Pokemon movie that's coming out later this year, we have had some, like, I guess you could say, we've had a new trailer about it is what I'm trying to get across. So, like, we haven't seen that much about it, but we have got the first official trailer, and, like, it wasn't even a trailer that we got, it was more of a teaser, and it looks interesting to say the least. It's going once again back to that, the I Choose You style that they've been using with the last few movies. They did it with I Choose You, obviously. They did it with The Power of Us. It's basically like a style that's different to the series, the main series, and it kind of looks like it's basically taking place in a separate alternate world, alternate timeline sort of thing, which is an interesting way to take the movies, and that's what they've been doing the past several movies. But it's essentially in that style, and it's basically, from what it looks like right now, it's like Pokemon meets Tarzan, because we get to see Ash in a jungle, and he's like running around or walking around or something, and then you see this kid it's literally like, it's basically a Tarzan kid that's like running through the trees, and apparently he's going to be super important. So it's very, very hard to know what is going on, and the movie is called it's like Pokemon the movie Coco or something like that. Like, Coco is in the title, which just adds to the confusion, to be honest with you. It's really hard to tell, like, what the direction is of this movie, but that's kind of why it's a teaser, I guess, because, like, they're supposed to just get our interests and tease us and make us want to know more. And I would say, even if you're not that big a fan of the Pokemon anime or the movies, that you would definitely want to know more about what this is about, because it definitely seems interesting, if nothing else. And that's kind of why, that kind of just adds to the allure of a new Pokemon being announced, because obviously, if it's going to take part in this movie, it's going to have, the plot is going to kind of revolve around it, as Pokemon movies always do, because that's honestly what they do with Pokemon movies. Pokemon movies oftentimes are just a sort of a promotion for a specific legendary Pokemon. You had Volcanion a while back that came out right around the time that it was coming out. You have Diancie, that happened for Diancie. You had the Hoopa movie, like that was bang, 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 all the Generation 6 mythicals. You had Victini, Reshiram, Zekrom, like that's what Pokemon movies are for. That's why they exist, essentially. And so, because of that, it's not really a surprise, but it is going to be interesting to see what this mythical Pokemon ends up becoming and what happens to it. Another very interesting thing about the announcement of a mythical Pokemon, I've been talking about on my own channel pretty consistently, how I thought it was very, very unusual that we did not have a mythical Pokemon within the Pokedex for Sword and Shield. Currently, we only have, minus the new legendaries that we got for the expansion that were revealed for that, at just the base Sword and Shield level when the games first came out, we only had 3 legendary Pokemon, which presently is the lowest amount of legendary Pokemon that any generation has ever had. So something seemed up there. I was very suspicious of that fact. And then the other thing I was very suspicious of is the fact that there was no mythical Pokemon, because every generation, even Generation 1, before these tropes and these, basically the structure was even kind of established for the Pokemon franchise, every generation has had at least one mythical Pokemon, and this is super important to maintain in terms of keeping it going, because obviously Pokemon's not obligated to keep any seemingly present pattern going if they don't want to, but the reason why it's different with mythical Pokemon is because mythical Pokemon are a very key promotional piece for the franchise. They're not just a Pokemon, and they're not even just an important Pokemon within the games. They are a legitimate piece. They are a legitimate marketing tool for the games and for Game Freak and for the Pokemon Company. And the reason why that is, even going back to the first mythical Pokemon in Mew, is because they can use them to draw up hype and draw up attention about the games. Obviously, way back in the day with Mew, you had a contest. It was in CoroCoro magazine that you had to take part in order to be able to get Mew. And this caused, even before the official announcement of the contest, when there was rumblings that there might be a Pokemon in the game named Mew, that's basically what launched Pokemon into just phenomenal status, was this rumor about this Pokemon. So the effect and the impact of mythical Pokemon has been there since the beginning. And so they always tend to use them as this kind of promotional piece, whether it be in the movies, like I said, whether it be in an event that takes place partway through the generation that encourages people to obviously pick up the game if they haven't yet. It encourages them to play the game more, and basically just keeps people involved with the game because you know this interesting Pokemon is coming. The interesting thing about this time around in particular as it pertains to this legendary, because once again, as I said, these are the things that convinced me that I knew a legendary or a mythical Pokemon was coming. But the interesting thing about this that was like, I know one is coming, but I can't say for sure technically, is because we did not have the presence of one. For the past 2 generations at least, even though we have had mythical Pokemon revealed to us, like sort of in the middle of the generation after the initial games were revealed, we basically always knew about them since the beginning of the generation, or since the games of that generation, 6, 7, what have you. We knew about the mythicals pretty much as soon as the game launched, even though the mythicals themselves didn't come out till later, and that is because they were data mined, they were found within the game, so we pretty much knew about them right away. However, with Generation 8, that is different because there is no data within the games for these mythicals whatsoever at all, and so they haven't been data mined. And because they haven't been data mined, they just haven't been there. So even though I can pretty much say like, yes, this is a thing that's going to happen because it has happened, I don't have any evidence for it at the same time because there's no data for it. We don't really have any evidence, which is something that is new, like fairly new, at least for the past like 7 or so years. Like it's been almost a decade since we have actually had this sort of situation in the Pokemon games. I genuinely can't remember what the situation was for Gen 5, but at least since Gen 6 back in 2013, this has been the standard. So the fact that we legitimately don't have anything, that creates kind of a new situation. But nevertheless, obviously there is a mythical Pokemon coming as I suspected, and the reason why it's so refreshing to have it in this way is because in addition to mythical Pokemon being tools for marketing and promotion, obviously gameplay-wise, they're very fascinating because they're just they're mythical Pokemon. They have a lot of mythos surrounding them. They're obviously going to have story and lore and all of this other stuff. I mean, at least you hope so. Not every mythical Pokemon does, but that's kind of what you hope for. But nevertheless, they're at least going to be important and they're at least going to be powerful. So they carry a lot of weight with them in the games, and the fact that we are most likely, fingers crossed, knock on wood, that nothing happens last second, the fact that we are going to basically get surprised by this mythical Pokemon, we're going to be able to see it for the first time on February 27th when it's announced, and we're not going to have it spoiled to us by data mining, that is extremely refreshing. Like, that's going to make the experience of this Pokemon and the impact that this Pokemon has just so much better because it's not going to be spoiled beforehand. And this clearly shows that the Pokemon Company not only is learning, I'll say Game Freak as well, obviously, because they're the ones that are developing the games, but it shows that they're not only learning from their past games and they're using that information, that knowledge, to make their future Pokemon games better, but it also shows that they're kind of listening as well. I mean, obviously we know that Game Freak is listening. They've been pretty good about showing that they are listening, and they're accepting feedback and all that stuff, because I mean, you can name off in just Pokemon Sword and Shield alone, you can name off a bunch of things that basically fans have requested that they have honored and brought back because of that feedback in Sword and Shield. You had the regional variants returning in Galarian forms. You had a bunch of just small improvements here and there to Sword and Shield, to the Pokemon formula, and then you also have just a bunch of things that Game Freak has done to show. Like, even the even 200 plus new Pokemon coming in the expansion, you could say is the result of them listening to fan feedback, because even though they definitely had the expansion planned at the time that they announced that they were cutting the decks, so they already knew they were bringing back some of the Pokemon, the fact that they're bringing back Pokemon when they initially said they weren't going to, I mean, you could genuinely argue whether or not them saying we're not going to was actually, like, them for sure, like they were planning not to do this, or if that was just a cover for the expansion because they had been developing it for a while. They knew it was happening, but they couldn't say that that's what was happening, so they kind of just had to have a cover story. Either way you want to take it, they are basically doing something that they said they wouldn't do initially. They said that they were not going to bring back additional Pokemon, and now they are. So you could argue that that is a form of feedback that they are addressing, and they are bringing back in the game. So Game Freak and the Pokemon Company are definitely apt to accept feedback, and in this instance, they're not really accepting feedback, but they are learning from experiences they've had in the past with people data mining their games and spoiling these Pokemon ahead of time. And so they're combating this by just not putting the Pokemon in the game at all until they are ready to reveal it and eventually send it out, which is great because overall it just makes the experience of the games just that much better and makes the quality of enjoying a Pokemon game just that much better as well. And it definitely is exciting that they are doing these kinds of things and learning and becoming better, because it just get you excited for the future of Pokemon going forward, because we can see that they are learning all of these lessons that have been there to learn over the past several years. And before we get to the next half of the podcast, I just want to shout out Tax Defense Group. Be sure to check them out at 800-850-7973 or check them out online, taxdefensegroup.com. Thank you to them. And also thank you to Writer Junkie. Check them out at writerjunkie.com or call them for a resume at 805-587-7966. But moving on, though, with that said, once again, I'm just really looking forward to seeing what all of this has to offer. And frankly, I'm looking forward to seeing what the rest of Pokemon Day has to offer as well, because in addition to this Pokemon being revealed for Pokemon Day, there's also going to be a number of other celebrations as well. There's going to be stuff in Pokemon Masters, it's been stated. There's going to be celebrations in Pokemon Go, possibly with this mythical Pokemon. And it seems like there's going to be a lot of different stuff going on, which naturally makes a lot of sense because, like, Pokemon Day is becoming a holiday. I said at the beginning that Japan is officially recognizing it, but for the rest of the world as well, it is effectively a holiday. Like, I mean, like, you might only have, like, the video game people who recognize it, but, like, it definitely is a holiday. It's the inception, the anniversary of the largest and most valuable media franchise in the world, so obviously that needs to be celebrated, and so a bunch of things are definitely going to happen, and I'm really excited to see what kind of stops they pull out. I'm really, like... I'm just really looking forward to this. I really like the fact that they're making it a big deal every year and not just doing something when they have like a new game to announce or something like that. I really like that fact. It's really, really awesome. And I had a follow-up that I was going to take this and it just totally slipped my mind. But basically, this mythical Pokemon is obviously the headliner. I'm really looking forward to seeing what it has to offer. And it's going to be interesting to see how it's included into the games as well, because obviously I talked about it being in the movie and kind of what the movie, excuse my phone. I'm not used to getting notifications because, like, no one wants to talk to me just because I'm, like, a loner, you know? But yeah, excuse that. I'm sorry. But anyways, it's going to be interesting to see how it's included into the games, because we know it's going to be in the movie. We know roughly what the movie is about. But when it comes to the games, obviously a Pokemon's role in the games versus the movie is very different. And we also know of the expansion that's coming to Pokemon Sword and Shield. So it's likely going to be a part of the expansion in some way, because we haven't got any information on the expansion outside of the initial trailer itself. And one important thing that I've been kind of noting just every so often is that we know that not everything that was shown off in the expansion trailer is going to be what's in the expansion, because it kind of seemed like they were throwing all of this stuff at us in the initial trailer. So it was like, holy crap, we're getting all of this stuff. And because of that, especially because it was such a surprise in the beginning, can make it easy to forget that there's going to be even more, just because they're not going to show us everything. So this mythical Pokemon is very likely one of those things that they didn't show us initially. And so it's going to be very interesting to see how it's incorporated. It most likely will be an event of some kind. So it's probably not inherently going to be a part of the expansion, just because a mythical Pokemon that you would essentially have to pay for to receive would obviously be bad. That's the whole reason why they're updating Pokemon Sword and Shield, to be able to have access to all of the Pokemon that are going to be in the expansion. You just have to get them through trade or different things like that. So for that reason, they'll probably have this mythical Pokemon as some kind of event and not necessarily have it as a part of the expansion where you have to catch it within a specific area of the expansion. But then that brings about another interesting question as well. Are we even going to be able to catch this Pokemon in the first place, or is it just going to be handed to us? One of the biggest problems with mythical Pokemon lately, over the past several generations, have been that they just give you to them. You get the code when the Pokemon comes out, you put that code into your game, and then the delivery man at the Pokemart just gives you this all-powerful mythical Pokemon that is mythical, because these Pokemon, it's not even known for sure whether or not they exist. That's why they're called mythical Pokemon. And this delivery man is giving me this Pokemon just like a freaking package, like it's my mail. It's a terrible way to do mythical Pokemon. I understand why they do it from obviously like a business perspective. Once again, promotional marketing, using it to drum up just hype about the game and get people involved. But just giving us the most powerful Pokemon in the game, just handing it to us like a piece of mail, is not the way to go about it. And so it's going to be very interesting to see if that keeps up, or if they do something a la Gen 4, where they have an event surrounding the mythical Pokemon. You get an item that takes you to an area that allows you to experience a mini quest, which then allows you to actually encounter the Pokemon, which then actually gives you the opportunity to catch it. And then not only that, you also get some lore and some backstory about the Pokemon along the way. That is the dream, that is the goal, that we return to that point, the days of Generation 4. For the mythical Pokemon. And because I was talking about just earlier how Game Freak has been learning from, not necessarily their mistakes, but they've been taking feedback, they've been learning from it, they've been basically learning from experiences that they've had the past couple years, past couple generations, in order to make this generation specifically a lot better. This is another golden thing that they could learn from, that they could accept feedback on to make this better, because this is definitely a facet of the Pokemon games that needs some improvement. So if they have been improving all of these other little things, I am definitely hopeful and crossing my fingers that this is going to be improved as well. I'm just really holding out hope. I'm not holding my breath, because you can't expect something like this, because then if it doesn't happen, you get your hopes shot down, and it's just even that much more disappointing. But nevertheless, I am crossing my fingers for it, because it would just be amazing to be able to have an actual side quest, an actual mini quest, whatever you want to call it, surrounding this mythical Pokemon, to where you have to go to this new area, you get to learn about the Pokemon along the way, it's a little mini, just extra gameplay, and then you actually get the chance to catch the Pokemon, and the process of catching it, the challenge of catching it, as opposed to just being gifted it. It's just, we don't want to be gifted Pokemon. We want a challenge. We want to be able to catch it. And at the end of the day, if you're a kid, for instance, if you look at this from a kid's perspective, if you're a kid and you're stupid and you mess up and you miss your chance to catch the Pokemon, one of two things could happen. They could either program the event such that you get maybe one chance to catch it per day, and if you fail to catch it or you fainted or something, maybe the event will trigger something that has one of the characters say, oh, well, you can just come back tomorrow, and basically the Pokemon will return and you get one chance to catch it per day. Or you essentially have a situation. Basically, you have like a respawn sort of situation one way or another that allows you multiple chances if you happen to not catch it, or you can simply just re-put the event back into your game, like re-put a code in, and you have another chance to do it. If you're not smart enough to just save before you actually battle the legendary, of course, because that's been a thing that's happened forever, but you never know with kids. Kids are dumb. Kids are stupid. Like, you gotta prepare for them. So, yeah, with that being said, that is something that I really hope that this legendary, or this mythical, I should say, brings along with it, is the fact that we actually get to catch it. We actually get to have some gameplay with it, because that just really makes a difference. Because I cannot even tell you, with Generation 6's mythical Pokemon, Hoopa, Volcanion, Diancie, I have all of those Pokemon. I got all of those events, but frankly, like, it's hard for me to care about those Pokemon. Like, I think Diancie has a really good design. I think Volcanion is a really cool Pokemon. But outside of just thinking they're a cool Pokemon, I don't really have any experiences with them, because I just go pick them up at the Pokemart, and that's it. I put them in my box and I'm done, because at that point I've already beat the game, so I don't really have an opportunity to use them. There's no gameplay associated with them, so I don't have the opportunity to catch them or like use them in any way. And so they just end up getting put in the box, and just like, that's it. I turn on my game, I do the event, I put them in the box, I save it, it's done. Like, there isn't really any reason to play with them at that point, and that's what I don't want for Pokemon Sword and Shield. And this became so much so a fact that in Generation 7, when Zeraora came around, Zeraora was released right before Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee came out, so basically a lot of us had kind of moved on from Sun and Moon, and even though I got a code for Zeraora, this is gonna be bad coming from me as a PokeTuber, so this is gonna be like a confession. But like, I just had no motivation whatsoever to pick up Sun and Moon to get Zeraora, that I didn't even redeem the code. So I don't even have a Zeraora in my Sun and Moon games at all, because I had such a lack of motivation to pick up Sun and Moon or Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon to redeem the code, because A, they had done it so late into the life of these games that Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee was already like right around the corner, just a couple weeks away, and my mind mentally had already moved on to that, so I really had no desire to pick up Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon again, and I especially had no desire to pick it up because I knew it was just gonna be picked up from the delivery man. I was gonna put it in my box, and that was gonna be it. I was never gonna use it, and my logic was, if I'm never gonna use it, if nothing's ever gonna happen, and I'm not really super concerned about having it to complete the Pokedex either, why is it worth my time to like boot up this game to get it? I couldn't justify it. Like, I mean, that probably sounds kind of ridiculous, but it also has some logic with it too. I just couldn't justify it. So it definitely, like, that is how bad it has gotten, that a dedicated Pokemon fan like me, who literally their life is dedicated to the franchise, can't even find the motivation to pick up their game to get this Pokemon. Like, there's no, like, that is how little reason there is. That is, excuse me once again, that is how, like, small of a reason there actually is to actually get these Pokemon in the game. Like, there is nothing more to them than that in terms of content they offer in the game outside of just their presence. Hang on, I'm gonna get this stupid phone. There we go. That is just unacceptable. But anyways, we're almost done anyways. But yeah, there just isn't enough reason. There just is no reason whatsoever to get these Pokemon outside of just owning the Pokemon. And when you own the Pokemon, if you can't do anything with it, what's the point of even owning it? So it's just been a terrible situation that's boiled over, and I'm really hoping that they fix this in Pokemon Sword and Shield with this new mythical Pokemon. Give us a quest with it, give us an event. Let's go back to the days of Generation 4, and since it's pretty likely that we're going to get Diamond and Pearl remakes in this generation anyway, it would make all the sense in the world to return to form when we're going back to the generation that actually gave us those kinds of events in the first place. But with that being said, I'm going to round it off here. Today was an interesting video with phone notifications and different shenanigans, but I thought it was a pretty interesting topic. I am definitely excited for the Mythical Pokemon coming out. We basically have a month, so we've got a while to wait, but it's definitely going to be interesting in the lead up, and it'll be interesting to see if we get any more information in that lead up. So if you guys enjoyed the podcast, be sure to give it a like if you're on YouTube, follow wherever you're listening, Spotify, iTunes, etc., and let me know as well if you're on YouTube your thoughts as well. I really wish they had, I guess it wouldn't make sense if they had comments other places, but it's always nice to hear from you guys. So if you have a way of letting me know your feedback and just commenting and letting your voice be heard, definitely do that. And with that being said, obviously I'm going to be back next Friday with another episode, so be sure to subscribe or follow wherever you listen for that. And with all of that being said, I hope you guys have a great weekend. You can check me out on my personal channel as well, Hoops and Hip Hop, if you want more Pokemon content, if you haven't done that already. And with that being said, I love you guys very much, and until the next episode, I will smell you guys later.